This is the mop-up for July 19th, 2023. I'm 50% of David Feldman. I'm feeling a little stronger every day, a little angrier every day. This is Special Counsel Jack Smith. Now, when a president is suspected of far-reaching crimes that spread over multiple federal agencies as well as local jurisdictions around the country, it is commonplace for the Attorney General to bundle all the possible indictments into one portfolio and hand it over to what is called a special counsel. Jack Smith, for example, is a special counsel because the Attorney General is a political appointee who serves at the will of the president, while a special counsel is walled off. He is immune to the vicissitudes of the changing political tides. For example, Ken Starr was the independent counsel when the Republicans were going after Bill Clinton. Independent counsel is different from a special counsel, but Ken Starr was an independent counsel who, rightly or wrongly, pursued Bill Clinton to the bitter end, despite it no longer being politically advantageous for the Republicans. You might remember that Republicans paid a heavy political price for impeaching Clinton, but Starr, who was a Republican serving alongside a Democratic attorney general appointed by a Democratic president, Starr was free as an independent counsel to go wherever the investigation took him, and he went there. Jack Smith is a special counsel. He's not an independent counsel. He's a special counsel. And whether the Republicans like it or not, he has the same freedom pretty much that Ken Starr has. And he has already indicted Donald Trump for mishandling classified material. But what he has yet to do so far is indict Trump for the big enchilada, January 6th. We have yet to see an indictment of Donald Trump for January 6th. Why is that? Well, we now know that the FBI, for a year after January 6th, refused to investigate the role Donald Trump played in that insurrection. The FBI, Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, was terrified of going there because he was terrified the FBI would end up being accused of being weaponized and politicized, you know, like the Republicans are doing right now. And so the FBI stood down, and Merrick Garland, the new Attorney General, upon taking office in 2021, decided that he would go after the low-hanging fruit first when it came to prosecuting January 6th. He decided to work his way up the Trump food chain until it got too close to the former president's Oval Office, and then he would turn it over to special counsel Jack Smith, which is what he did last year. Merrick Garland, whether you like it or not, has done a pretty good job going after January 6th low-hanging fruit. More than 1,000 people who stormed the Capitol have been arrested, with close to 500 defendants now doing time. Earlier this year, and this is quite remarkable and underreported, Garland, the Attorney General, was able to get juries to convict leaders of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys on charges of seditious conspiracy. Sedition. As we speak, as I talk to you right now, the head of the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, the head of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, are now doing time in a federal prison for seditious conspiracy. I know it's hard to keep track of all of this, but when history looks back, Merrick Garland, who I have complained about countless times, I've complained that he's not moving quickly enough. Merrick Garland has been slowly and methodically putting big numbers on the board. He's winning these trials, securing prison sentences, working his way up the ladder to Trump so that he could then turn it all over to special counsel Jack Smith. And as I said, Jack Smith has indicted Trump over the mishandling of classified material, but he has yet to indict Trump over January 6th. until this week. Now, I know there's climate change, income inequality, and tens upon thousands of Americans dying each month because they're underinsured. But that doesn't mean we're not up against a strain of American fascism that is taking root partly because of income inequality, climate change, and a crumbling healthcare system. But without a functioning Justice Department, without law and order, without an attorney general and a special counsel willing to prosecute the real criminals, men and women who wear suits and ties, those are the real criminals in this country. If we don't start prosecuting these people, we're going to fall into the abyss and never find our way out. I believe prosecuting Trump isn't a distraction because Franklin Roosevelt, the gold standard of presidents, he could fight for the New Deal and fight fascism. Granted, Franklin Roosevelt couldn't chew gum and walk at the same time, but he could fight poverty and fight Hitler because he knew that fascism is poverty's twin sister. Now, your life won't change when Donald Trump goes to jail, but it will change if he doesn't. There is evil among us, not just Trump. There's DeSantis, Kevin McCarthy, and pretty much the entire Republican Party that hates workers and democracy. This is evil. This is a party that doesn't believe in the rule of law. Getting Trump in prison is more important than we all realize, not just because he's beating Biden in some of the polls, because he is a criminal. Now, it has been confirmed that Jack Smith, the special counsel, this is huge, sent Donald Trump a letter informing Trump that he is the target of an investigation into January 6. This means that Donald Trump is very likely to be arrested yet again, probably this week, and indicted for the role he played in either January 6 or in trying to overturn the 2020 presidential election. I'm going to talk about two prongs, two specific types of prosecutions that I think Jack Smith is going to pursue. And it's a little complicated, and I'll try to explain it. But first, let me give you an idea of what we're up against, how dangerous the Republican Party is. Here is Kevin McCarthy. He's the Republican Speaker of the House. Here he is yesterday responding to reports that Donald Trump is about to be indicted for the role he played on January 6th.
Yes, under a Biden administration, Biden America, you'd expect this. If you notice recently, President Trump went up in the polls and was actually surpassing President Biden for re-election. So what do they do now? Weaponize government to go after their number one opponent. It's time and time again. I think the American public is tired of this. They want to see equal justice, and the idea that they utilize this to go after those who politically disagree with them is wrong.
This is what we're up against. Kevin McCarthy, who was cowering in the Capitol basement on January 6th, on the phone with Mark Meadows, Trump's chief of staff, crying, begging, on the phone with Donald Trump on January 6th, screaming and begging for Donald Trump to call off his attack dogs. Kevin McCarthy thought he was going to die on January 6th. And when he was screaming at Trump, telling him to stop it, Trump said, no. I'm not going to stop it because apparently these people storming the Capitol care more about the election than you do, unquote. You had Republicans cowering on January 6th, running, fearing for their lives. You saw Josh Hawley, Mr. Fist, running for his lives. But when the dust settled later that day, when the Capitol was cleared, people, hypocrites, cowards like Kevin McCarthy, reverted to their lapdog position. They voted not to certify the election for Joe Biden later that day. Hours after Trump had the Capitol stormed, where Mike Pence almost got killed, where Nancy Pelosi almost got killed, the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, voted not to certify the election for Joe Biden, which under the 14th Amendment automatically disqualifies Kevin McCarthy from ever serving in elective office. Again, we've talked about that. Look, there have been corrupt leaders in this country. In fact, I think all of them are corrupt. But we have never seen in modern history a party like these Republicans. The Republicans are disloyal to our Constitution. They're disloyal to America. They are entirely in the service of the oil companies, gun lobbyists, Wall Street, and of course, Donald Trump. They are terrified of Donald Trump. Not since 1861 have we seen such brazen dishonesty and sedition. This is sedition. Kevin McCarthy, under the 14th Amendment, is forbidden from serving in elected office. But, of course, we're not going to enforce that. So let me try to explain the choices that Special Counsel Jack Smith has and what kind of indictments I think are coming down this week. I'm usually wrong, but this is what I think is going to happen. So there's the classified material, but when it comes to prosecuting Trump for January 6th, this is the big one, right? The history books will be written about these prosecutions. There are, as I see it, and I'm usually wrong, two prongs for Jack Smith in prosecuting Trump for January 6th. Okay, the first prong is easy for all of us to understand. And I think this is the indictment I think we're going to see later this week. I think this first set of indictments coming down will be Jack Smith charging Trump with conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, that official proceeding being the certification of the presidential election on January 6th, okay? It's against the law to block an official government proceeding, especially the certification of a presidential election, which takes place on January 6th. And this, I think, is going to be easy for most of us to understand. It is against the law to forcibly prevent Congress from certifying the election on January 6th, to marshal your paramilitary groups and send them into the Capitol. That's violence. It's something that's easy for all of us to grasp. It's clear cut. Trump gathered a mob on the Ellipse earlier that day on January 6th. He knew they were heavily armed, and he urged them to march on the Capitol and fight like hell. He incited a riot. He incited an insurrection. He told his supporters to go in there and stop the votes from getting counted. He sat, we know this from the January 6th report, he sat in the Oval Office that day watching the insurrection. He told subordinates that Mike Pence deserved to be hanged, and he refused to call off the mob or send in the National Guard to protect the Capitol Police and, of course, our entire legislative branch. This is clear cut. It's easy to understand. This is a prosecution that I think, and again, I don't know anything, this is the prosecution. These are the indictments that I think will be coming down this week. Right? Because Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, before handing this over to Special Counsel Jack Smith, he has already secured convictions on seditious conspiracy. Seditious conspiracy. We've got leaders of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers who are serving time right now for seditious conspiracy. We know that they were coordinating their movements with high-level Trump advisors. We also know that Trump incited the insurrection by lying, by misleading his supporters, and that is against the law if he knew he was lying, which we now know he knew he was lying. Telling your supporters that the election has been stolen, this is what he did. He told his supporters the election has been stolen. while openly admitting to his closest advisors that, yeah, I lost. Apparently, the special counsel has gotten testimony before the grand jury from top Trump officials that privately Trump told them he knew he lost. Well, if Trump knew he lost, but went out and told the American people that he won and that the election was stolen, that is criminal behavior. That is inciting a riot. It's not protected by the First Amendment. It's inciting an insurrection. To tell millions of your supporters that you won when you knew you lost, it's criminal behavior. Now, we don't know who flipped, but somebody flipped. We know that Rudy Giuliani has been brought in before Jack Smith's grand jury. We know Jared Kushner has been brought in. Several high-ranking White House officials, including Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, they've all been brought in, and they've all been forced to testify before special counsel Jack Smith's grand jury. And this is what we seem to know, none of these people are targets. None of them are targets. Rudy Giuliani, not a target. Mark Meadows, not a target. Why aren't they a target? Well, it means, I suspect, that they cooperated with special counsel Jack Smith. In other words, they most probably flipped. They're rats, as Trump would call them. These are people trying to save their own ass. So, prosecuting Trump for inciting the insurrection, prosecuting Trump for conspiring to stop a government proceeding, the certification of the certification of the presidential election on January 6th, I think that's going to be easy for all of us, as well as a jury, to understand, because we all saw January 6th on our televisions. We get that. So that's why, and I'm always wrong, but I suspect that Jack Smith is going to prosecute the violence. We're going to see a prosecution of Trump for the violence Trump wrought on January 6th, stopping a government proceeding. Now, there's another prong that's more detailed and complicated, and I don't think Jack Smith is going to indict Trump on conspiracy to defraud the government. Conspiracy to defraud the government. I think those indictments are in the chute. I just don't think they're going to be coming this week. I think they're going to come near the end of 2023. That's, again, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is tougher for us to understand, but I really urge all of you to try to get a handle on this, because it's for the history books. It's less about violence, and it's more about legal proceedings. It involves Article 2 of our Constitution and understanding how our presidential elections work on a granular level. It's very complicated. And the Trump administration knew it was going to be complicated and hard to understand. But this is the real dirty work that Trump and his henchmen performed. So there was, if you read the January 6th report, if you follow this stuff closely, there was a much deeper conspiracy to overturn the 2020 presidential elections, much deeper than the storming of the Capitol on January 6th. The Republicans, even Mike Pence, want us to believe that January 6th was just some spontaneous riot. It was a protest that got out of hand on January 6th. But if you read the January 6th report and a lot of these books that have been written about January 6th, you would understand that there was a deep conspiracy with tentacles that reached far into state and local governments to overturn the 2020 elections, because this is how the Republicans win. They work the local, they work city government and state government. That's how they win. This conspiracy on January 6th was more than just violence, was more than just strong-arming the legislative branch and trying to stop the certification on January 6th. This second prong is, I think, going to be the series of indictments that come down later in the year. And Donald Trump will be indicted for conspiring with several lawyers like John Eastman, a former law clerk for Clarence Thomas. They were conspiring to send a separate set of electors to Washington on January 6th and after January 6th. This is fraud. This is conspiracy to defraud the federal government. And it's tough to understand. But Trump and Eastman, Clarence Thomas's former law clerk, several other advisors to Trump, and we're going to find out who these people are. And right now they're all getting disbarred. I think Eastman has been disbarred, or no, his disbarment is going on in California right now. Several advisors to Trump, lawyers, allegedly forged documents. They broke state and federal law by creating a counterfeit slate of electors to go into the Electoral College. The plan was initially for Mike Pence on January 6th to declare the election uncertifiable. And then Trump would have the election decided in Congress, right? With each state getting one vote, depending on, I don't want to get into that. But, and by sowing doubt, that's how the Republicans work, by insisting on voter fraud that didn't exist, they could present their own delegates. They would present their own slate of delegates, and that would lend credibility to Trump's claims. So they would say there was voter fraud in Pennsylvania. The popular vote in Pennsylvania says that Biden won, but that's voter fraud. We are sending a separate set of electors. This is the Attorney General. I know this is confusing, and that's why they almost succeeded. When stuff is complicated, our eyes glaze over and we just let it happen, and we believe the lies. So this is important. This is the Attorney General for Michigan. Her name is Dana Nessel. And this Tuesday, she charged 16 residents of Michigan for participating in Trump's false elector scheme. This is, I don't think it's a coincidence that Trump is about to be indicted for January 6th, and the state attorney general for Michigan has now charged 16 residents of Michigan for participating in Trump's false elector scheme. The false elector scheme is that second prong that Jack Smith is going to pursue, I believe, later in the year. This is a huge indictment on a local level. This is bigger than the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg indicting Donald Trump. That trial goes in March. This is about January 6th. This is about conspiring with lawyers to overturn a presidential election, okay? So Dana Nessel, Attorney General for Michigan, she says these defendants met covertly in the basement of the Michigan Republican Party headquarters on December 14th to sign their names to certify Michigan's elections falsely, lying that they were, quote, duly elected and are qualified electors for president and vice president of the United States for the state of Michigan. This is fraud. This is conspiracy to defraud the United States government. They signed false documents, which were then transmitted to the United States Senate and, of course, the National Archives. This was a well-coordinated attempt to give Michigan's electoral votes to Donald Trump in place of Joe Biden, who won the popular vote in Michigan. Now, you know that they didn't dream this up by themselves. Somebody in Washington, D.C., somebody in the Trump White House was coordinating this fraud, this conspiracy to defraud the United States government. This is huge. Here she is. Here is the Michigan State Attorney General, Dana Nessel. Here she is explaining these charges on Tuesday.
Each of them has been charged with 1 count of conspiracy to commit forgery, a 14-year felony, 2 counts of forgery, a 14-year felony, 1 count of conspiracy to commit uttering and publishing, a 14-year felony, 1 count of uttering and publishing, a 14-year felony, 1 count of conspiracy to commit election law forgery, a 5-year felony, and 2 counts of election law forgery, a 5-year felony.
Okay. She continued.
We intend to prove the following elements beyond a reasonable doubt: that the defendants knowingly made, filed, or published a false document for a purpose under Michigan election law and acted with the intent to defraud. The defendants did falsely make, alter, forge, or counterfeit a public record with the intent to defraud. The defendants did utter and publish as true a certain false, forged, altered, or counterfeit record with intent to injure or defraud, knowing said instrument to be false, altered, forged, or counterfeit, and that they unlawfully conspired together or with others to carry out these acts.
Okay, this is the second prong that Jack Smith is going to pursue, defrauding the United States government. She concludes,
undoubtedly, there will be those who claim these charges are political in nature. But where there is overwhelming evidence of guilt in respect to multiple crimes, the most political act I could engage in as a prosecutor would be to take no action at all.
That is the Attorney General for Michigan. Her name is Dana Nessel. Yes, she's a Democrat. Of course she's a Democrat. So this is the second prong, right? And I don't believe defrauding the United States government, conspiring with lawyers in Washington, D.C. Trump conspired with his lawyers in Washington, D.C., and state and local Republicans, like in Michigan, to defraud the United States government by sending phony electors, a phony slate of electors, to get Donald Trump elected president. It's fraud. They forged documents, they lied and said that Trump won Michigan when he didn't. This is the second prong that Jack Smith is going to pursue, but I don't believe quite yet, because it seems to be, because of this indictment that comes out of Michigan, this seems to be a bottom-up approach. This seems to be working first on the state level. And by the way, I believe these charges out of Michigan are the first January 6 indictments involving the conspiracy to overturn the election results. I believe that these are what came out of Michigan on Tuesday is the first indictments for conspiracy to defraud the government, I believe. And it's bubbling up, it seems, from the states. It's not Jack Smith, the special counsel. Now, this is why Michigan is really important, because these phony electors who she charged, they are all going to flip. Every single one of them. They're going to spill. They're going they're to stay out of prison. They're going to tell anybody and everyone who they coordinated with. Again, they didn't dream up this plan. These orders came from Washington, D.C. They came from Donald Trump. They came from his lawyers. And we're going to find out who coordinated this attempt to defraud the government of the United States, which is why, again, I don't believe Jack Smith, the special counsel, is going to indict Trump this week on conspiracy to defraud the government. I say Jack Smith is going to hold off on indicting Trump for conspiracy to overturn the election results, to defraud the government, send his own slate of electors to Washington. I think he's going to wait for Michigan to prosecute. I think Jack Smith is going to wait until Fani Willis, the Fulton County, Georgia DA, I think she's going to indict Trump next month for trying to strong-arm Georgia's Secretary of State into finding extra votes for Donald Trump, even though Trump lost Georgia. I think, and I'm usually wrong, that Trump will be indicted this week. He will be arrested this week, but I think he will be arrested on charges of inciting the riot on January 6th. I think later this week he will be indicted on charges of encouraging his supporters to stop an official proceeding through force, through brute force. I think Trump will be indicted for the violence we saw on January 6th. He will be indicted for delaying the certification of the election through force. But that second prong, the conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government, to overturn a presidential election by sending his own counterfeit slate of electors, I think Jack Smith holds off on that until later in the year. But then again, what do I know? This is my favorite. The Israeli government is now accusing Donald Trump of stealing ancient artifacts that were on loan to the White House. You gotta love Donald Trump. Apparently, besides, he kept the classified material, but Trump also decided to take some ancient Israeli artifacts that didn't belong to him back to Mar-a-Lago with him. You gotta love Donald Trump. They were Israeli clay lamps, and I think they had something to do with Hanukkah, and some ancient menorahs that Donald Trump decided he's probably using them as a doorstop. Well, Phoenix, Arizona reached a new milestone on Tuesday. How are we on time? Okay. Phoenix, Arizona reached a new milestone on Tuesday, recording 19 straight days of temperatures hitting 110 degrees or higher. That's 10 degrees higher than it normally is during the summer. 110 degrees. Does it, I don't know, do you feel the difference? If you live in Arizona, are people saying, I can't wait till it cools off, gets back down to 100 degrees again, sweater weather? I don't know. It's pretty serious. Phoenix hospitals report homeless people being treated for second-degree burns after passing out on melting asphalt. Remember the good old days when the only time the road melted was when you took way too much psilocybin? I miss those days. And if everything around you is melting, I'm pretty sure that's no longer a dry heat. It's a different type of humidity. I'm pretty sure liquid steel plays havoc on the humidity down in Arizona. Maricopa, Arizona's medical examiner reports 12 heat-related deaths so far this year, with an additional 40 deaths in Arizona believed to be linked to heat stroke, but Kari Lake is demanding a recount. 100 million Americans as of this hour are currently living under a heat advisory, with parts of New York, Michigan, and Vermont reporting record temperatures. On the bright side, there's no need to go to Mars. It came to us. We don't need to go to Mars. I love this story. On Monday, Passengers in Las Vegas aboard Flight 555, a Delta Airlines jet heading for Atlanta. They were all trapped on the tarmac for 3 hours in Las Vegas with no air conditioning as temperatures hit 114 degrees. No air conditioning. Passengers were throwing up and worse, defiling their pants. They were passing out, and at least one flight attendant had to be wheeled out on a stretcher. But at least you could get a cup of coffee that wasn't lukewarm. And I doubt there were any screaming babies, because I'm pretty sure when cabin temperatures hit 114 degrees Fahrenheit, those screaming babies tend to get awfully quiet. So there's that. And probably nobody clipping their toenails or prattling on and on about last night's housewives. Now, 114 degrees Fahrenheit, no air conditioning, 3 hours. Can you imagine being trapped on the tarmac in a plane leaving Las Vegas? Leaving Las Vegas. There's nothing more repulsive than the people leaving Las Vegas. Heading to Vegas, it's different, right? The passengers are excited, they're optimistic, they're clean, they've showered, no venereal diseases, they still own their car and have a savings account for their children's college education. But the flight out of Las Vegas, you're basically looking at chlamydia in a tube top and hot pants. That's all that's on board the flight out of Vegas, just chlamydia in hot pants. Under normal conditions, the flight out of Las Vegas, and I've been on these many a time, the flights out of Las Vegas reek of bong water and Axe body spray. But this flight, 3 hours, trapped inside what is essentially an aluminum portisan with no air conditioning and 114 degrees heat, I imagine the only thing worse than that would be sharing an Uber ride with a hypoglycemic Fran Drescher. I think the only thing worse than being stuck on the tarmac in 114 degrees heat for 3 hours with no air conditioning is being stuck in an Uber ride with a hypoglycemic Fran Drescher. The great Fran Drescher, our generation's Samuel Gompers, fighting for the working folk when she's not off in Venice as a brand ambassador for Dolce & Gabbana, taking selfies with Kim Kardashian. Yeah, last week she was in Italy as Dolce & Gabbana's brand ambassador, taking selfies with Kim Kardashian, who reportedly is a scab, has reportedly been taking acting jobs even though there's a strike. I don't know. You know, I'm sure Fran Drescher's the president of SAG-AFTRA. And I'm sure her heart's in the right place. And I assume she knows what she's doing, but I don't know. Is it asking too much for the actors union to be run by someone who isn't a multimillionaire? Is that asking too much to have a union that's not run by millionaires? 12.7% of the actors who belong to SAG-AFTRA qualify for health insurance. Only 12.7% of the actors who belong to SAG-AFTRA qualify for health insurance. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a brand ambassador for Dolce & Gabbana. I don't know, maybe a brand ambassador for Dolce & Gabbana doesn't quite have their finger on the pulse of the ordinary worker. But you know what we're going to hear eventually? This is how this strike ends, because these unions are run by millionaires. The unions are run by millionaires. This is what we're going to hear. And I support the unions. If you listen to Monday's show, you know that I was very malicious towards the studio chiefs. I support these unions. I just wish they weren't run by millionaires, because I know eventually there's going to be a settlement. And we're going to hear the millionaires who run the union say to the rank and file, under the circumstances, this was the best deal we could get, and I'm proud of it. See, that's what you get from any union leader who earns 3, 10, 100 times what the rank and file does. This is the problem with the AFL-CIO. This is the heads of these unions make way too much, and they end up saying, because they identify with management, so they say things, we did our best. I'm proud of the deal. Management, I gotta say, management really stepped up, and they came to the bargaining table, and we did our best, and they did their best. And this is the best contract we could arrive at, so please vote for it. So 12% of us can get back to work, and the rest of you can starve and don't get sick because you don't have health care. Now, I'm the bad guy for saying this, right? For questioning Fran Drescher for being a multi-millionaire. I'm the bad guy for insisting that unions be run by the middle class, right? Well, all we hear is, the unions built the middle class. Well, why can't the middle class run those unions? But I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy who thinks it's problematic to depend on multimillionaires to save us. Why are you so cynical, David? Don't you believe in noblesse oblige? Don't you believe the only ones who can save us are the rich? I don't know. I was raised differently. My parents taught me that the only thing that's going to save the middle class is taking rich people's money away from them. That's how I was raised. Isn't that how it's supposed to work? Isn't there supposed to be a natural dialectic where there are rich people and there are poor people, and poor people are supposed to hate rich people because rich people hate poor people? Isn't that the dynamic? Isn't that the way it works in most countries? Isn't that the natural order of things? A struggle between the weak and the powerful? Why would you think the powerful would ever protect the weak? Why would you ask a multimillionaire to represent union workers? Why? Because we've all been brainwashed. We've all been brainwashed to trust someone, a multimillionaire, who's on the inside. They're going to protect the people on the outside. That's always the first thing people on the inside want to do, is protect the people on the outside, right? That's what we're brainwashed to believe. Trust me, I went to Harvard Law. I have money. Let me run your union. Let me run your Democratic Party, because I know where the bodies are buried. I speak the language of the ruling class, so I can get you a good deal. How about instead you go F yourself? Take your Harvard degree and shove it where the sun don't shine. Let me shove it where the sun don't shine, and I'm not talking about Seattle. Look, I don't think it's asking too much for a dialectic. I don't think it's asking too much for a fair fight. That's all. I have no problem with rich people, just so long as I can steal their money. That's it. Or at least try to steal their money and redistribute it. That's a fair fight. That's the dynamic that goes on in France. Even England, they still have that dynamic. That's what goes on in Germany. There's the rich and the poor, and we fight each other, right? Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. That doesn't go on in America. It's like in America, it's like there are two teams in baseball, right? In sports, right? There are two teams. There's the rich and the poor. Fight it out. You win some, you lose some. Let's have a fair fight, level the playing field, fight it out. It is not a fair fight when multimillionaires run our unions and our political parties. It would be like watching the Yankees playing the Phillies, only to discover that some of the Phillies are secretly Yankees and are throwing the game to screw the Phillies. That's what having a multimillionaire union leader is like. It's like we're the Phillies, And we have some Yankees who are high up. We have like a manager who's secret and a coach who is secretly a Yankee. And, you know, they're going to help us get some numbers. We're going to score some runs. We're just not going to win. That's what you end up with when, and I'm sure Fran Drescher and who's ever running the Writers Guild and whoever ran that union that tried to organize Amazon in Alabama, that multimillionaire from Harvard, that failure, I'm sure they're nice people and they mean well. But if you're a millionaire, if you're Harvard educated, that automatically disqualifies you from representing the middle class, from having a say in the direction the Democratic Party should be headed. Just give me a fair fight. That's all I want. The Democratic Party should not be run by millionaires. Unions should not be run by millionaires. I'm sure Fran Drescher is a good person, but she's a millionaire, and 12%, only 12% of the 120,000 actors in SAG-AFTRA have health care. I want somebody who speaks for the 80%, the 85%, 88, I can't do the math, who don't have health care. Why would you trust a millionaire to get you a good union deal or to run your Democratic Party? Let me ask you a serious question. And again, I'm not talking about storming people's houses in Beverly Hills yet. No, I'm just saying, give me a fair fight, like they have in Germany, France, Portugal, Spain, even England, Great Britain. Give me a fair fight where it's the rich against the poor, where the poor are, or at least the middle class, are represented by people who are happy to be middle class, who don't identify with their oppressors. Now, I know my listeners are reasonable people. Would you hire a millionaire to work for you? Think about this for a second. Would you hire Fran Drescher to work for you? Would you hire a Harvard Law School graduate to work for you? Let's say you run a cafe or a deli or a printing shop. Would you hire Fran Drescher? Would you hire Ro Khanna, would you hire Chuck Schumer or his idiot kids? Would you hire the child of a millionaire? You would not. If it came out of your pocket, you're running a deli, you would not hire a millionaire to work for you, and you wouldn't hire their idiot kids, these effete products of elite private schools. If this podcast ever got successful and I could actually hire people, the first question I would ask is public school or private school? Because if you went to private school, I don't want you here. Are your parents rich? Are you rich? Because if they are, not hiring you. You know why? Because you're no good. You're no good. Go be rich, but not here on my podcast, not here in my deli. I've got work to do. This I'm right about. Now, the stuff about Jack Smith and who he's going to, that I don't know what I'm talking about. But I know that Fran Drescher, sweet woman, heart's in the right place. She's a brand ambassador for Dolce & Gabbana. She should not be running a union. Ro Khanna, Congressman Ro Khanna, Democrat, worth hundreds of $millions. Get him out of the Democratic Party. That I'm right about. You cannot argue with me about this. I just want a fair fight. I just want a middle class that is represented by the middle class, not this noblesse oblige bullshit where we think rich people have the golden ticket for us. They don't. They're rich because they screw people like us. Where was I? Oh, climate change. Climate. Was I talking about climate change? You know why climate change is getting worse? Because we're asking the fossil fuel companies to help solve it. It's like asking Fran Drescher and Ro Khanna to help the poor. We're asking millionaires to help the poor. The fossil fuel companies, even the Democrats are saying, we need to bring the fossil fuel companies in to help solve climate change. You know how the fossil fuel companies help solve, how they reduce carbon emissions? By burning more fossil fuels. That's the help that we've gotten, right? All Obama, Bush, Trump, Biden, we can't be enemies with the fossil fuel companies. We got to work with them to solve climate change. And the fossil fuel companies say, yeah, we're transitioning to natural gas because it's natural. It's gas that's natural. Well, so is gasoline and coal. It's all natural. In fact, natural gas isn't cleaner. It's actually dirtier. It produces more methane than coal, and methane never leaves the atmosphere. It just stays there, trapping the heat. But that's what we do here in America. If there's a problem, we ask the people who are the cause of the problem to solve it. Gun violence? Oh, we need to work with gun manufacturers and the NRA to come up with reasonable legislation. The rising costs of prescription drugs? Let's call in the leaders of the big pharmaceutical companies and see what their ideas are. That's what Obama did with Obamacare. He ran it by the pharmaceutical companies. He said, "Can I get your permission on this?" And they go, "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead." We're healthcare costs are out of control. Hey, we're all on the same team. Let's bring in the health insurance companies and have them draw up a plan to solve this. That's how it works here in America. Inside trading on Wall Street, let's put Wall Street in charge. They know how to put an end to it. This is how it works in America. Mr. Rapist. Hi, you're a rapist? You're Harvey Weinstein? Can you help us solve the rape problem here in America? What are your solutions, Harvey Weinstein, to solve rape? I see. So you're saying the fluoride in our drinking water should be replaced by roofies. That's interesting. And women should be forced to walk around completely naked, and the police should never arrest anyone for sexual assault. Thank you, Harvey Weinstein, for your input on how to solve the rape problem here in America. Climate change. I'm going along. I apologize. I've been sick, and I didn't realize how angry I was till I started feeling better. Nature Medicine is a respected scientific journal, and it released a study of the impact last year's heat had on Europe. Tracking data from 35 European countries, Nature Medicine reports that in southern Europe, countries like Italy, Spain, and Portugal were hardest hit, with people over the age of 80 most likely to die from the heat. Brace yourself for this number, okay? According to the study, at least 61,000 Europeans died last year from excessive heat. Meanwhile, Europe's summer this year is turning out to be the hottest on record and probably the deadliest, especially for Italy, Greece, and Spain. The New York Times reports that Southern Europe, more than any other spot on the globe, seems to be bearing much of the brunt of climate change. The heat is worse in Europe than it is anywhere else on the planet. Heat waves in Europe are reportedly more frequent and more intense in Europe than they are anyplace else, with temperatures expected to hit 118 degrees. The Italian government this week is advising residents to stay indoors between the hours of 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Meanwhile, the Houston Chronicle reports that Texas Border Patrol officers working for Governor Greg Abbott were ordered to throw migrant children into the Rio Grande, and with triple-digit heat, they were ordered to refuse their requests for water. This is the Houston Chronicle reporting this. Pregnant migrants are also reportedly being thrown into the water, getting tangled in the barbed wire that Governor Greg Abbott has put out in the Rio Grande to make their crawl into America incredibly bloody and next to impossible. This is America. This is Texas. This is America. According to emails reviewed by the Houston Chronicle, Texas border troopers have been ordered to throw children and nursing mothers into the water. They've been ordered to order them to go back to Mexico and, like I said, deny their requests for water. One Texas trooper complained to his superiors in an email. He wrote, quote, "I believe we have stepped over a line into the inhumane." You think? Listeners to this show might remember last month when we reported that Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and I wish I were making this up, Greg Abbott signed into law a bill that prevents cities from issuing local ordinances that mandate water breaks for construction workers. Think about this for a second. The Republican governor of Texas signed into law a bill that forbids cities from mandating 10-minute water breaks for construction workers every 4 hours. Triple-digit temperatures in Texas, but the construction industry in Texas convinced the Texas governor, the Texas Republicans, that forcing workers to take 10-minute breaks every 4 hours for water and some time in the shade, that's government overreach. So where does it end? You know, you think it stops with this, right? For the past 20 years, I kept hearing my friends say, well, things just have to get so bad, people will rise up. They don't. Things just get worse. Look at that Delta flight that I talked about earlier. The Delta flight where the passengers sat on the tarmac in triple-digit heat, no air conditioning, flight attendants being wheeled out on stretchers, passengers soiling their pants, vomiting, 3 hours. Nobody prosecuted for this. A terse apology from Delta. The passengers, I think, were given maybe a free flight. What about treating them for PTSD? What about the passengers rising and storming the exits on the tarmac to get the hell out of there? What about demanding that Delta Airlines treat us like humans and not cattle? No. Can't interfere with business, so it just gets worse. And as it gets worse, we don't rise up, we accept it. Because things in motion stay in motion. That's what Newton taught us. Things in motion stay in motion. If things are getting worse, they will continue to get worse. Things will keep getting worse until the greed, this is what it's all about, greed, until this greed is acted upon by an unbalanced force. Those are the immutable laws of nature. The Republicans, Wall Street, the greedy 1%, will keep pushing the line of decency, and they will keep pushing it until they are met by an unbalanced force. And that unbalanced force, you and me. That unbalanced force isn't millionaires. It's not Fran Drescher or Chuck Schumer or Ro Khanna or Nancy Pelosi saving us. That unbalanced force that stops the line of decency from moving further and further away from us, that unbalanced force is the 99%. It's the 99% of us who say, you know what? I don't need to be rich. I just need a livable wage, free health care, free college tuition, clean air, clean water, free child care, roads, bridges that are sturdy, and parks and forests that are safe, where I can camp. I don't need a vacation home. I just need the commons to share with my fellow 99%. What we need is a 99% that doesn't identify with our oppressors. We need a 99% that says, I don't want more than I need. It's bad for me. It's bad for my kids. It's bad for the planet. All you need is peace and quiet, food, water, friends, leisure time, and a purpose, some kind of job or hobby that gives your life purpose. And we would be fine. We know that. 99% of us know that, and that is the unbalanced force that will stop the rich and the powerful from rolling over us. We are the 99%. Remember that? Remember Occupy? We are the 99%, and we outnumber our oppressors. All we must do is despise the 1%. Is that asking too much? They despise us. They're denying water breaks to construction workers in triple-digit heat. They hate us. Why can't we hate them back? I just want a fair fight. You have to start distrusting the 1%. All you have to do is vote and demand that the 1% pay their taxes and that our government works for us, not the rich and the powerful. And the way you get that is you purge the Democrats of people like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Ro Khanna, and any other asshole who's worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Go be a Republican. Get the F out of my party. You've got to reject the values foisted upon us by the rich. Don't buy into their bullshit and don't buy their stuff. Whatever they're selling, save your money. Don't buy it. Stay away from fast food, soft drinks, snacks. Take mass transportation, not airplanes. Take the train, take buses when you can, walk, join a library. Reject all of it because all of it is destroying our souls, our country, and our planet. Turn off your streaming services. Stop feeding the 1%. Don't give money to the 1%. Before you spend your money, stop. Think. Where's this dollar going to? Do you want to give your money to Starbucks for a non-union burnt coffee? Boycott all of it. Spend your money wisely. Reject whatever the rich are selling. And don't hire the children of the rich. Here's a promise that if I ever have enough money to start hiring people for this show, anybody who went to private school or is the child of a rich person who just wants to learn the business, go F yourself. Go F yourself. Don't hire the children of the rich. Somebody went to Harvard, somebody went to an elite private school. Do not hire them. They will screw you. They're lazy. Don't hire the children of the rich. Finally, okay, thank you for all your kind words. In case any of you are not up to speed on my urological mayhem, I was recently sidelined by a kidney stone, and here he is. That's the kidney stone, the most pain I've ever experienced in my life. And while most of you have written to me expressing solidarity, a few have written to me saying, kidney stones? Are you kidding me? That's nothing. Try birthing a baby. To which I reply, how dare you? First off, insensitive much? I can't give birth. I don't want to go into specifics, but doctors tell me I have a hostile womb. And more importantly, I get it. Childbirth is more painful than kidney stones. I get that. The physical pain is worse than passing a kidney stone, but at least With childbirth, there's a reward at the other end. People sing your praises for bringing life into this world, and your body creates oxytocin, which produces a permanent euphoria. There's no oxytocin that the body produces when you're trying to pass a kidney stone. It's just pain. You give birth to a baby, you're left with a sense of immortality. But when I passed my kidney stone, it was just pain, followed by endless condescension and contempt from the nurses, all because I insisted on swaddling little Yuri in a blanket and breastfeeding him until they ripped Yuri from my arms and placed me in a 48-hour psychiatric hold. That's Yuri. You're looking at Yuri. I felt a maternal connection to Yuri, who grew inside of me, and he was ripped from my arms. So yeah, maybe kidney stones aren't as physically painful as childbirth, but the emotional pain, the postpartum psychosis of not knowing what happened to my Yuri, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. So I really resent the people who said, try childbirth before you complain about the pain of kidney stones. This is my Yuri. I took a picture of him right after I brought him into this world. His name is Yuri. He's named after my great-grandfather's ulcer. My grandfather had an ulcer named Yuri. It's a Feldman tradition to name the oldest kidney stone after your paternal grandfather's ulcer. This is the only known photograph of my grandfather's ulcer, Yuri. It was taken in the early 1950s while Yuri was attending band camp. That's my Marvin. I'm sorry, Marvin? That's mislabeled. His name was Yuri. Unless maybe my grandfather had a bastard ulcer named Marvin that we never knew about. That would explain a lot. I thought this was Yuri, but it says Marvin in 1954. I gotta do some research. There may be, I may have a larger family than I knew about. I'm David Feldman on pain medication, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. I haven't been feeling well. This is like today is I felt my first day back. Hey, we're going to do office hours probably a week from this Friday when I'm feeling 100%. So I look forward to meeting. Always look forward to meeting my listeners. And thank you to the moderators who keep the chat room civil here. I read all your comments, and so please keep them coming. They inform the show. I love it when you correct me. So please, thank you for your comments. Please like this episode, except for the kidney stone. Forget the kidney stone stuff. If you could like this, that would help. And share this with your friends through social media or email. That's the best way to help me. Or get me some new pain medication. The best way to help me is to share this show. This is a grassroots show. And please subscribe to my channel. Please subscribe to my newsletter, which hasn't come out since I got sick. But I'll probably start up the newsletter again maybe in a week or two when I'm feeling 100%. Once again, I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak.